Turn my
Awesome.
phone ringer off.
And we're recording the session. That way we can post it online for those that miss it tonight. Some people joining. Let me see if I can find her. For those just joining, we'll get started in just a minute or two. We want to give enough time for everybody that registered to tune in. Hello.
I love the hat.
I didn't do that. I don't know why that is on me.
Oh, you've been selected to wear the hat.
No.
Give it another minute for those that registered. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started, and then people might be joining us a little later on as well. But thank you all for tuning in today, and congratulations on being admitted to the joint degree program between William & Mary and the University of St. Andrews. Very exciting, yes. My name is Caroline Ward. I'm an assistant dean with the Office of Undergraduate Admission at William & Mary, and I will then move it along to our panelists to introduce themselves and their titles, and just we'll also be sharing a presentation this evening, and then later on in the evening we'll also be doing a Q&A. And if you have questions throughout the evening and through the presentation, please drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You should be able to drop your questions there, and we'll get to them later on.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marcus Holmes. I'm Associate Professor of Government here at William & Mary. I'm also the academic director of this program, the Joint Degree Program. I want to congratulate you all for being admitted. I just want to say at the outset that this year was incredibly competitive. So if you were accepted, you should be extremely proud of your accomplishments. I read through all the files with Dean Ward, and I was blown away actually by the quality of the application. So I want to congratulate you again. I am a professor of international relations. I study diplomacy. I study international security. And so if you want to talk about any of those things, send me an email. We'll chat about it. But most of all, for these purposes, I'm the director of this program on the William & Mary side, and I look forward to meeting all of you in person in August. Why don't I turn it over to Dean Sykes and he can introduce himself.
Professor Holmes, that's quite something to have to follow. Hi, everybody. My name is Mark Sykes. I'm the Vice Dean for Student Success. I'm very privileged to be part of this joint degree program for many years. I work in the Dean of Students office, and as far as this program is concerned, I'm the Director of Student Services. I am excited to be here, and Marcus is about as thrilling as you see, and that's actually really important, students, for a faculty member, especially starting here at William & Mary. With that, I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Thank you, Mark. So hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Lisa Jones, and I am an Associate Dean at the University of St. Andrews in the Faculties of Arts and Divinity. And in that role, it's my privilege to be the Academic Director for the BA International Honours. So I am, roughly speaking, the St. Andrews counterpart to Professor Holmes. So I look after the BA International Honours students and the programme. I look after the students when they're with us in St. Andrews, and I do that with the help of a whole team of subject faculty representatives, in each of the subject pathways, and also with the help of our global office. And the director of the global office is with us today, so I'll hand over to her to say hello.
Thank you, Lisa. And hi, everyone. It's fantastic to be here. I wish I was there in Williamsburg in person to meet you all as we do every year, but this is okay too. My name is Sam Lister. I'm director of the global office at the University of St Andrews. I've also been involved in this program for many years now, and it's one of my favorite parts of the job. I absolutely love working with this cohort and this program, and our relationship with William and Mary is one of our closest relationships in the world, and it's just fantastic to work with you all. I feel very at home in Williamsburg, and I'm looking forward to coming back there and seeing you all in person in the not too distant future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Thank you, everybody. I think what I'm going to do now is share my screen, and I have a very brief presentation that I want to run through just so we're all on the same page about the program. Hopefully you can see this. Hopefully you can hear me. Caroline, if I go blank, just get my attention and I'll reboot my computer or whatever. So
Will do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I know this is the age of Zoom, and I'm sure you've been on many webinars and Zoom meetings, probably many today. So I want to thank you for taking an hour of your time to be with us. I said congratulations at the outset, but I just want to say congratulations again for another reason, which I didn't mention, which is that you're joining, or we hope you join, I should say, a very unique program. So this is one of the few programs with a United States-based university and another international university that has a joint degree. So this is really sort of a special experience. And so, you know, this program's been around now for a while, and we sort of have learned over time how to make it run and how to get all the sort of efficiencies worked out. And each year, I think it gets better and better. And so, you know, in a way, you're joining us, I think, at a really good time, because we've sort of kind of know what we're doing, and we have this program going, and it's really great. Like Sam was saying, it's one of the best things I think about what William and Mary St Andrews have to offer. So I'm sure, you know, most, if not everybody, sort of knows the basic structure of the program, but just so we're all on the same page, I want to very briefly give you an overview of how this works. So in general, it's pretty simple, actually. Students basically spend 2 years at both schools. So you spend 2 years at William and Mary, you spend 2 years at St. Andrews, you get one diploma, but that diploma has the insignia of both institutions. So it's a single degree that is literally from both schools. And that's, I think, what makes it unique. This is not a summer study abroad program. This is not spend a year at a university abroad and get your degree from William and Mary. This is truly a unique dual program where you get a degree from 2 places. We have 6 majors, so classical studies, economics, English, film studies, history, and international relations. And when you applied through William and Mary, you noted, I'm sure, that you had to choose a major when you set in your application. So this makes it very different than a lot of other programs. Indeed, I think every other program at William and Mary, where you're choosing your major at the beginning. And the reason for that is quite simple. Because you spend only 2 years at William and Mary and only 2 years at St. Andrews, you need to kind of hit the ground running, so to speak. So you're right into your major from day one, and you're taking classes in that major immediately. So that's one of the distinctions between this program and many of other, or actually all of William and Mary's other programs. You might ask, how big is this program? We have roughly 160 students across both universities. So, you know, you think about that, and it's a relatively small number, right? Because what we're talking about is basically a select group of individuals, students who are in a program that's unique, and it's pretty small, right? So you'll be joining I hate to sort of use a sort of weird term here, but like a family, right? You're joining something that's a little bit different and unique, and it's very small, right? So 160 people is a big family, but it's a family nonetheless, right? And then the other thing I want to say just at the outset too is that there's certain sort of aspects of this program that I think are really kind of boutique-y in nature. And what I mean by that is they're unique to the program. You get special sort of concierge services is the way I like to talk about it. We're going to discuss what these are, but they include things like pre-registration for your classes, for example, right? They include things like major advisors that are handpicked by me that know the program really well, and they're sort of leaders in their field and all that kind of stuff. So we really try to do everything that we can to be very supportive in this program. And because of that, you get some sort of perks that aren't available to students who are in other programs, or even sort of regular William and Mary students. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. So the structure of the program, as I mentioned, you spend 2 years at each place. Because all of you on this webinar apply through William and Mary, you will start in August at William and Mary. And then after your first year, you go to the other institution, right? So if you started at St. Andrews, you would come here for year 2. Because you're going to be starting at William and Mary, you'll go to St. Andrews in year 2. And then year 3 is where the big choice kind of gets made, right? So this is where you sort of determine what the model is for your studies. You can spend your 3rd year at St. Andrews, or you can come back to William and Mary. That is up to you. And then wherever you spend your 3rd year, you will spend the next year at the other place. And so this basically goes back to sort of the ABBA, ABBA, great band, or ABAB model, and it's your choice. We can talk about, if you like, in the Q&A, some of the advantages and disadvantages of both models. And I'd be happy to talk to you offline too if you have specific questions about sort of which one might make most sense for you. I mentioned a second ago these major advisors. And so one of the things I want to make very clear in this presentation is that one of my roles, I think probably my main role, is to support you in this program, right? And so what that means is I'm the faculty director. I want to make sure that you succeed. I want to make sure that you do very well academically, but also socially and things like that. But my major sort of concern is that making sure that you're going to make it through this program and do exceedingly well. So there's a couple of things that we put in place to make sure that happens. The first thing are dedicated major advisors that we have at both schools. We call them major advisors at William and Mary. And as I alluded to a second ago, these are really handpicked people that scholars, faculty members, that will guide you through the program. So each major has 1 or sometimes 2 major advisors, and they are intimately familiar with all the requirements, all the regulations, all the things that you would need to know if you were going to be in this program. They will help you through this, right? So they know the ins and outs. And crucially, they don't go away when you cross the Atlantic. So if you start at William and Mary in economics, let's say, or international relations or classical studies, whatever the case is, your major advisor is always there for you, okay? So if you go to St. Andrews and you're taking a class in international relations and you have a question about how this is going to affect you, down the road, you send an email to your major advisor here at William and Mary, and they're going to meet with you through Zoom, or they're going to exchange emails. The point is that they're with you for this journey, right? They are there to make sure that you succeed. And it's not like when you go to St. Andrews, we forget about you and then we see you again when you come back. They're there all 4 years, which I think is really helpful. I alluded to some of the perks a second ago, and one of the major ones, and I think this is sometimes students underestimate how important this is, we will pre-register you for your major requirements, which is basically a way of saying that you will get into the classes that you need and you won't have to worry about it, right? So whereas where other William and Mary students might be fighting for seats in a class that's particularly popular, you guys get to register first, right? And the reason we do that, I think, is somewhat obvious. You only have 2 years at William and Mary, and you only have 2 years at St. Andrews. So it's really important that you get the classes that you need for your major. And so we make sure that you get those classes. And so that's one of the perks that I think is kind of a sort of exclusive benefit of this program. The support, though, doesn't just end with the major advisors. So we have a couple of different groups of people that are here to support you as well. And the 2 that I kind of want to highlight are the peer advisors that we have, and then also the fellows that we have. So peer advisors. Peer advisors are students that are in the program. They're typically juniors and seniors, and they work with us in the administration, right? So they work with me, they work with Dean Sykes, and we basically work together to make sure that from a sort of social and academic perspective, you are doing well. Right? So these will be the people you can turn to if you're having some concerns about going to St. Andrews, for example. You don't really know how things work. You don't know, how you're going to get a credit card over there or a banking account. Or maybe at William and Mary, you're like, I really want to meet more people. I don't know what club to do. The peer advisors are there to kind of provide you with a social sort of network that's immediate. So you will meet these peer advisors when you get here to Williamsburg in August. And they also are going to be there for help you with the transition, right? So there's sort of a social network that you can rely on if you have questions. Now, some of the fun things that we do, we have barbecues, and we have, they play different like field day events, and they have ghost tours in Colonial Williamsburg. We do lots of different things with the peer advisors to make you feel at home. All right. So we want you, as I mentioned before, it's kind of a family. We want you to feel welcomed in that family. And the way that we do that is we have lots of interactions with you. And the peer advisors are one of the best things that we have in this program, in my opinion, to make you feel welcome and also welcoming you to the family. We also have something called the WAMSTA Student Partnership. So this is the William and Mary St. Andrews. WAMSTA is sort of the acronym that we use for lots of things in the program. And this is a student-run organization that exists at both universities that provides mentoring and social events, right? So this is in addition to the peer advisors. These are folks who are going to, again, have things like parties and various events, but also help you with networking, help you with figuring out what you want to do maybe with your career, how to get a job. If you want to do an internship in London, but you don't know how to do that, the student partnership can help you with those types of things. We also have a fellow. The fellow is somebody who works for the program in particular. So they're dedicated to us. They're typically a graduate student. This year, they're a graduate student in American Studies. And what they do is help us with career type stuff, right? So they work in the Cohen Career Center, which is here at William & Mary. It's basically your one-stop shop for everything career related. If you want an internship, trying to get a job, interviews, all that kind of stuff. They work with the Cohen Career Center very closely because they know that this program is somewhat unique, right? You're spending 2 years at each place. You might think to yourself, how do I explain how this program works to employers? How do I explain how this program works to graduate schools? What types of jobs are going to be particularly appealing to somebody like me, who's in this program that has this degree from 2 places? So our fellow really helps you to do all those things. So whether it's, having a resume taken a look at, or trying to figure out how to work an internship database, this person is there to help you succeed from a career perspective. So I think that's another one of the benefits that we have in this program that you might not get elsewhere. I talked about some of the events that we have, and I couldn't actually list them all out because there are a bunch of them, but just know that one of the things that's going to happen when you arrive in August is that we're going to inundate you with social events. You don't have to go to all of them. I hope you go to some of them, but the idea is to welcome you in a welcoming way. That's a little bit redundant, but that's the point, right? So whether it's a barbecue, like I said, whether it's a ghost tour in Colonial Williamsburg, whether it's a hike, we're going to do things as a sort of family to make you feel welcome and to sort of help you get socialized both into William & Mary, but also into the program in particular. Some of the other things that we do around Family Weekend or Admitted Students Weekend, if we were doing this in person, there'd be all kinds of events, but these are sort of, milestones in the academic year that we typically celebrate by having receptions or lunches or dinners or things of that nature. 2 other things before I move on. There are a bunch of Facebook sites that I actually think are pretty helpful if you want to go take a look. We have one for WAMSTA. We have one for the parents of the joint degree programs, which is, I think, very beneficial for parents out there that might be tuning into this. And then we have one just general for happenings in the JDP. So things will get posted about, anything that might be relevant to a student in the program. We use that Facebook account for that purpose. And then finally, we also have a LinkedIn page. So one of the things that we've done is sort of try to maintain our sort of relations with JDP alumni, and through LinkedIn, current students and then students who are out in the world now as alumni can network, help each other with internships, help each other with jobs, and also I think, be a network support system for once you're out of the program, right? So once you graduate, it's not like your relationship to this family ends. We have a relationship that continues into your career as well. And so the LinkedIn site is one of the ways that we manage that. I mentioned careers, and I just want to briefly sort of highlight some of the things that our graduates do. I've been really struck in working with this program at how successful our graduates are. If you go to William & Mary in a sort of regular major, you go to St. Andrews in a regular program, you're going to do very well also. But I think one of the things that's unique about this is employers increasingly value internationalization. They value the sort of experience that you get by not just spending a summer abroad, but spending 2 years abroad. And I think the reason for that is they know it's challenging. Right? They know that going to a new environment and having to learn a new academic culture, a new social culture, that can be demanding, and they respect that and they like that. And I think it shows in what our graduates do. So whether it's, consultancies, which are very popular, law school, PhD students, working in publishing, doing various research types of activities, our students do very well. And so, I've been very impressed with where they've ended up out of the program. And I expect that to continue for sure. The other thing is, just very briefly, I want to sort of give you 2 quotes that I think were fascinating about what our graduates have to say about the program. And you can actually find more on our websites. We have more examples of these, but these are 2 of my favorites that I just wanted to quickly highlight. So this is one from Caroline, who studied international relations in 2016, about the program. It's a unique experience which has had a long-lasting impact on my career trajectory. After graduating, I was able to attend the University of Cambridge to do an MPhil in development studies. I was hired by a humanitarian NGO and later deployed in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The BA, this degree, is full of opportunities to gain valuable job skills and experience prior to leaving university. And the reason I like that is because it highlights, I think some of the things that this program really does well, right? It's international in focus, right? It set the student up very well for graduate school, and the career that they chose is absolutely fascinating, right? So that's the kind, if I wasn't a professor at William & Mary, that's the type of career that I would like to have. And then an A in English from 2019. The dual nature of the program gives distinct perspectives for reading and analyzing research. The combination of British and American learning systems generally greatly benefited me, giving me a desire to continue to work in international education. The best part of this program is what students give back to it. Don't be afraid to ask questions and advocate for the best student experience. The reason I like this is because it gets at this idea of being student focused and student centered, right? I want to hear from you. So when you come to William and Mary and join this program, I want to know what's on your mind. I want to know what's bothering you. I want to know the things that we're not doing well. I want to hear your ideas for improving the program, right? Because this is ultimately a program that is about the student. And I'm here to make sure that you're succeeding. And if you don't tell me what's going on, I can't help you succeed, right? So I think this gets at that notion that this is a student-centered idea, a student-centered program, and I want it to continue to be, right? So this isn't a program where you join it and I don't talk to you for 4 years and I see you at graduation. You're going to get to know me very well, right? Like it or not, like you're going to get to know me very well. But I think that's the point, right? To get to know you guys and understand what your concerns are and how the program can be improved. And I think year after year, the program has improved and we're at a pretty good place right now because of exactly what the student was getting at. Okay, and then finally, I talk a lot. I also talk very fast. People have told me I talk extremely fast and I should slow down. I try to slow down, it doesn't work. So I will try to slow down, but also just give you a couple last points to remember before I turn it over to the other folks, right? One of the ideas that I think is crucial to this program is that you are a full member of the school that you are attending, right? And what I mean by that is if you come to William and Mary in August, you are part of William and Mary. You are part of this larger institution. You can join a fraternity, a sorority, you can do clubs, you can do club sports. All of this is available to you. You're part of a family within William and Mary. You're part of a special, between us, kind of group of people that have special privileges and it's kind of boutique-y, right? But you're still part of William and Mary. So whether it's doing internships, whether it's research opportunities, whether it's going up to Washington, D.C. to do stuff to the DC Center, whether it's a Global Research Institute, which is right here in Williamsburg that hires lots of people during the summer, whether it's a Career Center, whether it's the Health and Wellness Center, even summer study abroad through William and Mary is a possibility. The point is that you are not sort of restricted by being in this program. When you're at William and Mary, you can do all the things that regular William and Mary students do. And by the way, when you go to St. Andrews, the same is true there as well. Now, there are a couple minor exceptions. If you want to play varsity football for William and Mary, they might have something to say about the fact that you're going to be gone for 2 years. So there's certain things that you have to work out. But for the most part, you are fully part of the university that you're at. And that's kind of the point, right? We don't want you to be just sort of this group that sort of exists outside of the two institutions. We could have set it up that way where you're basically not a part of William and Mary or you're not a part of St. Andrews, but instead we did it a different way, which is to say you're part of this overarching family, but you're very much a part of the school that you happen to be at, depending on where that is. The other thing to know about this program is that we are basically going to expose you to two very different intellectual traditions, right? You're going to go to William and Mary, and depending on the major, like the things will change a little bit, right? It's slightly more different or slightly more the same depending on the classes you take, of course. But in general, we are approaching higher education and academia from different vantage points, right? The US system of higher education developed in a particular way. The UK version developed in their particular way. And that has led to some important differences in intellectual thought, right? And so the pedagogical experience is different. What professors expect of you can be different. The classes that you take might be different. The number of classes that you take might be different. But the point is that you get to experience both of these things, right? So when you combine the two, and I think this is actually the genius of the program, when you combine those two intellectual traditions, you're getting the best of both worlds, right? You're really able to combine this sort of divergence of experience into something cohesive. And that typically works really well for our students. Now, because there are these two intellectual traditions, this is a challenging program, right? You come to William and Mary, you get used to William and Mary professors, what we require of you, and then you go to St. Andrews, and maybe the expectations are different. Maybe you're used to William and Mary having more exams, for example. Maybe you're used to having more papers. Maybe you're used to having quizzes and things like that. You're used to taking 5 classes, right? You get to St. Andrews, and St. Andrews says, well, here we take 2 classes, or we take 3 classes, right? We don't have as many exams. We don't have as many quizzes. We have, maybe a couple more papers, maybe fewer final exams, right? So these are differences in sort of expectations that can be challenging. It can be difficult to navigate. Now, know that you're not alone in that. This is why we have peer advisors. This is why we have the student partnership. This is why I exist. This is why Dr. Jones exists, right? So we're there to support you. We're there to ease the transition, but it's not easy. I'm not going to lie to you and say this is an easy program. It's very challenging academically. I think it's rewarding for that reason, but it is challenging. And it's socially, it can be hard too, right? So if you come to William and Mary in August, you meet some friends, you have a good time. You're like, this place is great. Williamsburg, Virginia, who knew? It's awesome, right? And then you got to go to St. Andrews. You might be thinking to yourself, boy, that's tough, right? I got to leave my friends behind. And you're right? It is tough. For a lot of students, they struggle with that. But the thing that helps is that because we're a family in this program, you're not doing this by yourself. You're starting with a cohort at William & Mary, and you will travel as a cohort. I mean, not physically in the same plane, although I suppose that's possible. You will travel in this cohort together to St. Andrews. And then when you're in St. Andrews, you're gonna have immediate friends, right? So you have your family there, you have your JDP family, you'll meet new friends as well, right? So socially it can be a little challenging, but again, it's the program is set up in a way to minimize that difficulty and to provide you with a family sort of idea that you can rely on when things kind of get tough, okay? So for all of those reasons, precisely because it's challenging intellectually and socially, that's what makes it rewarding, right? It's a very rewarding program, as I think, you know, some of the quotes that I sort of gave you before highlight. Okay, I promise I will stop talking, and now I'm going to. So what is the plan for the rest of the session? I want to make it about you. So I don't want to hear myself talk anymore. So I'm gonna stop talking. But what we want to do is just give you a little bit of a perspective from St. Andrews, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A. So any question that you have, put it down in the chat. We're going to address your questions. I'm brutally honest, so I'm going to be honest with you. You know, you can ask me anything. And if we don't happen to answer let me start over. If we don't happen to answer your question, or you have something specific to your like sort of individual case, feel free to email me. We can set up a meeting or talk about it via email. Okay. So with that sort of long-winded introduction, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Lisa Jones, who you just met at St. Andrews, who's going to say just a few words about the St. Andrews experience, and then she'll turn it over to Sam Lister, who will say a couple of words, and then we'll talk about your questions. Thank you, guys.
Wow, thank you very much, Marcus. That was wonderful. That was a wonderful introduction and overview, I think. So I don't have any slides. I'm just going to talk for a couple of minutes, not too long, because I think, you know, we want to get to the Q&A quickly, because as we said, this is about you being able to ask questions. And also it's almost bedtime here in Scotland, so we don't want to go on for too long. I just have a few reflections, and you know, some of these things overlap with what Professor Holmes said. We graduated our very first class from this program in 2015. And there were just 8 of them then, just 8 pioneers. Now, of course, we've seen well over 100 graduate. And that first graduating class of 2015, they would have entered their program 4 years prior, of course. So they entered in 2011, which means that this year marks our decade of admitting students into the BA International Honours Programme. And in that decade, the programme has grown and evolved so much. It's increased both in terms of, you know, the number of students admitted, and also in terms of the numbers of subjects, subject pathways that we offer. And it really is something special, this programme, that both universities are very, very proud of and very supportive of. It's really a programme like no other, because while lots of institutions might offer collaborative degrees, those are usually on what we call a 2+2 model, where, you know, you attend one institution for 2 years, then you move to the other for 2 years, and it's really like 2 separate halves. But our WAMSTER program, as we call it, is not just a 2+2. It's a very, very well designed and, you know, fully integrated collaborative effort between the 2 universities. And that ensures that students get to experience both of our historic institutions in their first 2 years, building the foundations of their degrees from both institutions, so that they can then plan their junior and senior years in the way that suits them best. And as I think has been made clear throughout their years with us, our students are supported every step of the way by a team of people at each institution, from the program directors like myself and Professor Holmes, to the subject advisors, to the support staff in the many service units like careers and student support and so on, and their fellow WAMSTers in the form of the WAMSTer Student Partnership. So it's a very, very well supported program, and the benefits of a collaborative program like this, I think, are clear. We all know how study abroad has always been a desirable element to add to one's college experience. And this program goes further than that, right? This program, it has been called study abroad on steroids sometimes, because, you know, students here, They don't just get to attend 2 ancient universities, they get to be full members of 2 ancient universities, as Professor Holmes was saying. They get all of the history, all of the tradition, and all of the opportunities that both of those ancient universities have to offer. They get a dual perspective on their academic subjects, right? Studying it from both the US perspective and the UK European perspective. They get to make friends and connections on 2 continents, and they get to experience and navigate 2 cultures. So this wealth of experience and the unique nature of this degree program, the progression they make through it, really gives our students something special, something that sets them apart from other graduates and enables them to stand out. There is, as has been mentioned, there's an extra layer of effort involved in doing a degree this way, right? No question about it. There's a bit of extra effort, but every point of challenge is also a point of opportunity to prove yourself and to gain for yourself an advantage in terms of the skill set that you're building and the person that you're becoming. And an example of that sort of challenge is, as Professor Holmes was outlining, after a year at William and Mary, you will feel settled and part of that wonderful community. And then you will uproot yourself, cross the ocean, and make your way to a small medieval town on the east coast of Scotland, right, where the weather is not quite as good as it generally is in Virginia. Now, that's going to seem challenging, but again, you won't be alone. You'll be making that move with all the other Wamsters, and you'll be doubling your family and doubling the size of your home in that one move. And what's more, you are going to love St. Andrews. You're going to love it. I know that because all of the students do. This small medieval town is historic and romantic and quaint and windswept, but it's also strikingly international, and it offers wonderful opportunities for travel and activities, from exploring the Scottish countryside, the Highlands and Islands, to playing golf and other sports, to creative pursuits of all kinds, and of course links to the rest of Europe. So this university is going to feel like home as soon as you arrive and you do orientation. And in fact, even before that, because you'll be connected with us on many occasions during your first year at William and Mary, right? There's lots of opportunities to already start connecting with St. Andrews. The student partnership will take care of a lot of that as well. And once you arrive in St. Andrews, you can become part of the tradition of St. Andrews academic families. So that's one of our very historic traditions where younger students find academic parents to mentor them, and in turn, they become academic parents to others. So you'll be able to help yourselves to all of the things that St. Andrews offers, because St. Andrews is also your university. So as I said, you are going to love it. I won't go into more detail now because you would learn more about St. Andrews as you get closer to coming here. So instead, I'll just finish what I'm saying here by wishing those of you who are going to become new entrants to this program in our second decade, I would wish you all the very best for your first year at William and Mary, and I will look forward to welcoming you to St. Andrews next year as you strike out on the second exciting part of your college experience. So that said, I would like now to hand over to my colleague Sam and let her say a few words.
Brilliant, many thanks, Dr. Jones. I won't say too much because I'm sure there are lots of questions, but I wanted to pick up on a couple of points that have been raised and that really, for me, define the programme. And one is that our institutions have fantastic relationships across all levels and all departments, and we have been working together now for many years, even before the programme started. So way back in 2007, we started these discussions, and even before then we had lots of exchanges and other things going on between us. But as much as we all know each other's institution, the students on this programme live that experience in a way that we don't. And what is really special about this programme to me is that you, the students on this programme, define that experience and what it means to be a WAMSTA in a way that none of us can actually. We can all speak very authoritatively about life in St Andrews and life in Williamsburg and how the programme works and how academically you'll progress. But none of us have lived it in the same way that a student will. And I think that's a really exciting opportunity as a student to have the ability, as Dr. Jones said, to pioneer, to be a pioneer. This programme has been full of pioneers as long as I've been involved with it. And the picture that's behind me just now is a graduating class from 2018. And I thought I would just pick it because you can see the students have a graduation hood on. Now, all students graduating in St Andrews will wear a graduation hood. But for the WAMSTA programme, we have a specially designed hood, and students were part of that process. So the first students on the programme helped us to design the special graduation hood. They helped us to design the degree transcript that you get when you finish your programme. And they helped us to design, or they did design themselves actually, a coat of arms that is now an officially registered coat of arms in Scotland. And that brings together the William and Mary and the St Andrews crest into one image. And I just think all of these things show the sort of pioneering spirit of our students on this programme, but also their commitment and their dedication to bringing our two institutions closer together in a way that the staff can't quite do. And I think that's just fantastic. The other point that I wanted to raise was just going back to the degree certificate and this joint award. What I think is so special about this programme is that you have the ability to position yourselves for a global marketplace with this degree, because you'll have a certificate that works for you in a US context. If you're going to US employers, you'll have your Latin degree certificate and all your honours from William and Mary. And in Europe, you'll have a St Andrews transcript that means you'll have a really detailed record and something that European employers can understand and appreciate in a different way. And so you have all the documentation at your fingertips to speak to employers on both sides of the Atlantic. And I think that's a really special thing. And with that, you also have really special skills from going through this programme. And the one that I've noticed most of all in our cohort is resilience. Because they have gone through all of these challenges and these transitions that colleagues have mentioned. And by the end of those 4 years, they're not only really academically qualified and fantastic students and graduates, but they're also extremely resilient, extremely independent, and extremely confident. And it's just brilliant to see them graduate from the programme. And one more thing is, I've been reflecting a lot that in the world that we live in today, we need students and we need graduates that understand global challenges and global solutions and want to find global solutions to things. So whether we're talking about climate change or global health or poverty, all of these are major world challenges, and they require our graduates now to have an understanding that is truly international. And that is what you get from this programme. And I'm so delighted to see our students do so well when they finish with us. So I think those were the things I wanted to cover, and I'm really looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. It looks like we have a question already, but for those tuning in, please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And our first question posed to the panelists is there time to participate in experiences such as internships during your time at either school? So if someone would like to take that over.
Sure, I can say a couple things from the William and Mary perspective. I think the answer is yes, absolutely. So typically the internships happen in two different ways. So there are, of course, your traditional kind of summer internships. A lot of students that I notice are very popular things to do or go to DC and work on the Hill, for example. Oftentimes students will work through the Washington DC Center on those internships. So you sort of couple a summer class with an internship that they help you find. And that's been, very, very cool to see that develop. And so that's definitely one of the options. But the other thing that's sort of more recent that I think is worth noting is that we do have an increasing number of internships that happen over the course of a semester. So I actually have a student right now who's at St. Andrews. He's a second year, but he's pursuing during the semester an internship in Washington, DC remotely, and he's getting credit through William and Mary. So, it's one of these things where, because we have this Zoom technology and we have the ability to communicate very very easily now, you can actually do a lot of cool things. And so he's participating in internship, in the United States while he's at St. Andrews. So that's a little bit of an abnormal example, but it's definitely possible. So I would say yes. I mean, I think one of the things to think about is, when you want to do an internship, whether you're going to do a traditional summer internship or whether you're going to do it, during the semester perhaps, and then balancing that with your other goals. And so if you're doing it during the semester, you have all your other classes to think about. And if you're going to do it over the summer, then you should think about how that's going to work with respect to your career goals and so forth. But if anything, I would say the students in this program do probably more internships than the sort of modal William & Mary student. Students in this program are very motivated, and so they tend to pursue every opportunity that is available to them. Internships are certainly included in that.
I just wanted to add something to that. I've also been struck by some of our students working out that when they wanted to take an internship that was perhaps a little bit longer than might be usual, they could do that on this program in a year when they were finishing at William & Mary and expecting to start the next year at St. Andrews. Because at William & Mary, you finish earlier than we do, and we start later. So the actual, that summer period when you're going from one place to the other actually gets a bit lengthened. And I know that many students on the program have taken advantage of that to do internships that would have been ruled out otherwise because they had this slightly longer period. So that's just a sort of anecdotal thing I've heard from our students, because as we mentioned, they are very enterprising and very motivated.
Wonderful. And then we have a question asking how test credits, like from AP exams, how those are handled for the program, and do we recommend using them?
Sure. So I can talk about that. So one of the sort of regulations with this program is that AP credits and other test scores will not give you credit towards your degree in the sense of, okay, I took this AP bio class and it counts for this 300 level William & Mary class and I get credit that counts toward the degree. So test scores will not count towards your degree in terms of like the credit hours. But what they will do is oftentimes get you out of two different things. One is prerequisites. So often courses at William & Mary will have, and same thing at St. Andrews, will have prerequisites. So you have to have a certain level of competence in a subject before you can take a higher level class. So to continue the biology example, if you want to take a higher level bio class and you have this AP credit, you would be able to use that as a prerequisite so you can get out of taking the lower level biology class. But in terms of the program in particular, it can also be used to satisfy what we call breadth requirements. So if you go on our website and look through the regulations and the requirements for the degree, you'll notice that there are a number of different breadth requirements. And the reason for this is that, William & Mary has a strong sort of liberal arts tradition. And part of the liberal arts tradition is that you take classes in lots of different areas. So while you might be a major in international relations, let's say, we also think it's important that you take a science-based class or something in the arts, for example. And so the way that we do that is we have these breadth requirements, and you're required to take one class in all these different areas. And they're not that many of them. I think there's like 5 or 6, and they're actually reasonably easy to do with classes that you would normally probably take anyway. And so they're not particularly onerous. But the AP scores can satisfy those. And so, for example, again, if you had AP Bio, we would say, okay, you're an international relations major, you don't have to take a biology class or a science class because you already have the credit. So the short answer is no, they don't count for the degree in terms of the number of credits, but they can be used to help you with the degree, if that makes sense. And again, if you have specific questions about this, feel free to email me and I can look at your specific situation.
And then we have a question asking, how can we formally declare our intention to participate in the program? So that might be an admission related question, but if you want to secure your spot within the joint degree program, you want to put your deposit down for William & Mary, and then you will receive an email asking you if you want that deposit to secure your spot for William & Mary, just in general, or for the joint degree program. So you select which one you want your deposit to go towards. There's not a second totally different deposit. It's one deposit, and you're just identifying where you want that to go. And then it looks like we have a question about how has COVID-19 affected the program?
Sure, I can start with that. So, obviously COVID has affected lots of lots of different things in our lives, pretty much every aspect of many of our lives. And you know, higher education certainly has not been unaffected by it. I think one of the things that really helped in our case is that William and Mary and St. Andrews, and specifically I'm talking about the people on this webinar, we from the beginning have been in sort of constant communication about COVID matters. And so when everything was happening in March, I was actually in Scotland for meetings while this was all kind of starting. And so I got off the plane in Newark, and I think that day I looked up at CNN, and you know, they're talking about shutting borders and, you know, no plane travel and all this kind of stuff. So from that moment, we knew that this was going to be, or we anticipated this was going to be a pretty big deal. And so one of the things that we did is we have, you know, sort of weekly meetings with one another just to make sure that we're all, you know, on the same page, and we're coordinating, and we're making sure that we're doing the things to help our students. So for basically the past year or so, both universities have been trying to be as flexible and accommodating as possible. So what that means for our students is that while we have, you know, many classes that are in person, we also have lots of classes that are being delivered through multiple modalities. So these sort of hybrid classes. So for example, if you're a student who is in the program but wasn't able to travel to William and Mary because of a visa issue, or maybe you didn't want to travel because of health concerns, we had enough courses available that were delivered remotely so that our students could continue in the program. And I think we've been pretty successful with that. So we've been able to maintain the ability for our students to progress and take the classes that they need, even if they can't, you know, physically attend either of our institutions. And actually, you know, I think Dr. Jones, or maybe it was Sam, talked about resilience. This is one of the areas that I've been particularly impressed with our students. I have in my classes, you know, lots of students in the joint degree program, and I'm continually amazed and proud of the students who are in China, for example, who get up in the middle of the night to take their class with me. And are doing well. And I said to some of these students, I said, you know, if you want to take a leave of absence and just, you know, hang out and come back next year, that's fine. We'll work with you. They said, no, I want to continue. And so our students have been immediately, like, sort of really immediately grasping this notion that, no, I want to continue with my studies and be resilient. And so I've been very impressed by that. I think, you know, more importantly for you guys going forward, the plan for William and Mary next year is to be in person. You know, we have to see how things play out over the summer, but, you know, if you've been paying attention to vaccination rates and cases, things are looking, knock on wood, okay at the moment and going in the right direction. And so we're currently planning on having an in-person semester. And then there might be, you know, sort of some small changes to that as we go forward in the summer, but that's the plan at the moment. And so hopefully the worst of this is behind us, and we're going to get back to more or less of a normal semester in the fall.
Can I just add something quick to that, which is that the pandemic has been hugely challenging, but it's also given us an opportunity to think innovatively about our program and our relationship. And that's been a good opportunity. So even after the pandemic and when travel is absolutely possible and easy, we're still going to have lots of digital engagement between our cohorts and between our staff and between our students. And so we've learned a lot in the last year that we really want to take forward, I think, in the program. So there's been an opportunity to innovate in amongst all the challenge.
Great. And then we've gotten a few questions on how one can pursue the minor within the program. Is that possible, and how can you do that?
Sure, I can take that one. So we do have minors in the program. And you can basically do, I don't want to say any minor you want, because I haven't had students do every single minor, but I haven't encountered a situation where a student wanted to minor something and it didn't work out. There are a couple of challenges to be aware of. So the first is that because you're only at William and Mary for 2 years, plotting your class schedule is incredibly important, right? Because you need to have a certain number of required classes for the major that you're in. Let's say it's international relations. And then you say, I want to get a business minor. Okay, but the business minor is going to have a bunch of required courses too. And so you have to be careful to sort of plot out when you're going to take those courses, what they're going to, if they'll take St. Andrews courses as, you know, sort of the equivalent, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely possible. It's one of those things that I think has become more popular over time. Like the number of students who are pursuing minors, I think it's just sort of, you know, increased at a 45-degree angle. And so it's definitely possible. You just have to be a little bit strategic about how you do it and think through the ramifications of what classes you take and when, but it's certainly possible.
Great. And I have a pretty specific question. I don't know if any of you have experienced this particular example, but a student's asking if it's possible to participate in a cappella groups at both institutions. And this could be applied to many clubs, would you have to re-audition to the a cappella group at St. Andrews after participating in a cappella at William Mary? And that can kind of be applied to all clubs. Would you have to, go through the whole process again?
I could take this if that's okay. I think it's really important to stress that, as Professor Holmes said, you're a full member of both communities. So when you move institutions, you then have new societies and new things to join and to apply to. And our a cappella groups, just as an example, are separate. So you would be in the William and Mary a cappella group, but then you'd have to come to St. Andrews and audition, and it's a very different group to the one that you've been in William and Mary. And like your academic experience, that gives you a chance to broaden your horizons, try something different, be challenged in a different way. So the short answer is no, there's not an automatic move from one society to another. You would be going through a membership process, but you've got all of these options available to you. So you can join sports clubs, music, drama. St. Andrews has a really thriving student society scene with about 140 student societies altogether. So there's really lots to get involved with.
The only thing that I would add on is that there are students at both institutions that are in the WAMSTA, William and Mary St. Andrews cohort and partnership that are ready to sort of receive students when they come to St. Andrews, or ready to receive students when they're at William and Mary. And so there's a lot of student connection between students. And I think this cohort is a very tight-knit group of students, and they help each other out about how to navigate socially as students when you're new at University at St. Andrews, or if you're coming over to William and Mary.
Thank you. And then we've had a couple questions asking about that difference between ABBA and ABAB. So what are the pros and cons between the two?
Shall I start off with that? So, I mean, it's hard to say what the pros and cons are in a general sense, because it's really an individual decision for each student to make based on their own situation. So we ask the students to make this decision in the second half of their second year. That's when they're supposed to, sort of inform us whether they want to stay where they are for third year or whether they want to go back to their home institution. And there are lots of things that the students need to take into account when they're making that decision. We try to impress most strongly the academic considerations, right? So they would include things like thinking about where you want to spend your final year, and where you might want to do your dissertation or your honors project. And thinking about that in advance can be really helpful, because then you can plot out your junior and senior honors year carefully, so that you end up at the, being able to do the independent study work and the research that you want to do with the person that you want to do it with, whether that's a member of faculty at St. Andrews or whether that's a member of faculty at William and Mary. So the academic considerations are very important, but I know that our students also consider other things such as internships, whether they've got the possibility of setting up an internship and it would be better to be in one place rather than the other. They think about just whether they have got the energy to uproot and travel again now, or whether they just want to stay put for a year, and or whether they are excited to get back to their home institution and they don't want to be away for too long. So it's really an individual decision that they make, according to their own circumstances and their own preferences. So there isn't really sort of one set of pros and one set of cons. It's really dependent upon who it is who's making that decision, and what they want to study, and what else they're engaged in. Is there anything you would add there, Marcus?
I think, you did a very nice job. The only thing I will say is we hold sessions for the second years to talk about this. And so, I think sometimes when we talk about ABBA or ABAB, it's sort of like, oh, that's a very stressful decision that I have to make. First of all, like Dr. Jones says, you don't have to make it for a while, so you'll be able to have some time to think about it. But also in that session, we have students who have done both pathways talk about it and sort of give you their experiences. And so Dr. Jones is right. I tend to think about the academic side, but there's all these practicalities that can be relevant too, like where you're going to live. If you're going to spend 2 years in one place, sometimes that's easier. You get a longer lease, whatever the case might be. So there's all kinds of different things to think about. And so we try to cover all our bases in the second year and have sessions exactly on this question. So I would say don't worry about it for now. You can start thinking about it if you like, but you have a lot of time to sort of mull it over. And so you don't have to really stress out about it quite yet.
Great. And then we have a couple questions about housing. So I'm just going to ask, can you go over just housing in general, both at both institutions? We've had some questions asking specifically, do all JDP students room together in one dorm? But just housing in general, how that works. Someone did ask, do you have to choose your housing separately once you get to St. Andrews, and those kinds of questions.
Sure, maybe we can do this in chronological order. So when you get to William and Mary, we had an idea a while back that maybe the JDP students should live together, but it sort of goes against one of the principles that I was talking about earlier, which is you're sort of fully ingrained in William and Mary. And so we don't have students live together by sort of, you can do happen by chance, of course, but we don't really set it up that way. There's no special JDP St. Andrews dorm, although I think that'd be kind of fun. But we don't have that. So basically you'll get a roommate and Dean Moore can talk a little bit more maybe about specifics of how this works, but basically you will give your preferences and things of that nature, and you'll get a dorm, and you'll be just like every other William and Mary student. So you'll be sort of an incoming first year. You'll experience orientation and everything else just like William and Mary students normally would. The only difference is that from the beginning, you're going to be sort of experiencing the William and Mary, sort of orientation side, but also we'll have these JDP specific events together. So you will get to know the other first years very, very quickly, despite the fact that you're not living with them. So we will get together like literally on the first day you move in and have a barbecue or something like that, and just kind of meet and greet. So you'll get to know people without having to live with them. And so it's a common question that I get a lot, but no, you'll be sort of in the process for dorm selection, just like every other William and Mary student.
Okay, so at St. Andrews, you are guaranteed accommodation in one of our halls of residence for all years that you're in St. Andrews. So the vast majority of our joint program students will live in halls of residence. We have 10 halls for undergraduates, and they're spread all around the town. We're not a campus, so our halls of residence are really mixed in with the town buildings. We've grown up with the town of St. Andrews over the last 600 years. Some of our buildings are really new and others are much older. They all have different characters, different styles of living. You can be in a shared room, a single room, you can have your own bathroom, you can share a bathroom, you can have a meal plan or not a meal plan. So there are all kinds of options. The one point I would really want to stress about our dormitory experience is that we put all of our students together. So every hall of residence will be a real mix of nationalities, programs, faculties, and levels. So we'll have first years, second years, third years, and fourth years. So even if you come in as a second year, it's not like you're in a first year dorm. You're just living with lots of other St. Andrews students who might be in first, second, third, or fourth year. And I think that's a really nice feature of the program. We do have a number of students who want to rent privately once they're into third or fourth year. That is a little bit harder in St. Andrews because we're a small town and there's a lot of demand for private flats, but there is support available via the Students' Association, and of course you can choose to stay in halls of residence for all of your time at St. Andrews.
Great. And then someone asked, can you talk a little bit more about the mental and the transitional support that students go through switching schools twice?
Yep, Mark, I don't know if you want to start, or we work very closely together. So both of our offices, and in fact, everyone in the university supports the transition, but we do have different approaches to it. So at St. Andrews, there's lots and lots of support available, but students need to come forward and say that they need help, and then it's all absolutely there for you. So we're a little bit hands-off in the sense of we're not going to be coming to your room every week to check that you're okay. Rather, we're going to depend on you telling us that you need some help or some support. And you can do that via so many ways, through your academic tutors, through Dr. Jones, through the Global Office. We have daily consultations, through your halls of residence and the staff there. So there are so many opportunities to say that you need some support, but it is very much the case that students will ask for it, and then it's all there and available to you. We work very closely to offer transition support as well. So we run a number of sessions designed to help you move from one institution to the other, in both directions.
Thank you. And then we have some questions about the student-professor relationship. So are they hindered or enhanced by the JDP?
That's a great, that's actually a really, really good question. I personally think they're enhanced, and I'll give you a couple of different reasons why. So the first one is this, and this actually dovetails with what Sam was saying about support. One of the sort of unique aspects of this program is that when you get here in August, you will be enrolled in a class with me. And this is going to be the students in the program where we get to know each other. We get to learn a little bit about Scotland. We get to have, some fun together. This is one of the best classes that I teach, because I get to go know the students in the program very, very well, and the students get to know me. And so when the weather's nice, for example, this semester I've had students over for lunch at my house in our backyard, and it's just fun. I get to kind of to know my students really, really well. So that's in the program. That's the class that you take with me. Now you might be thinking, all right, well, if I'm spending 2 years away from William and Mary, like how can I develop these relationships? And that's a good question. So I think there are some challenges there. But what I've noticed is that the joint degree program students have been very good about keeping in touch with their professors at William and Mary. So what is not atypical is for a student to take a class their first year at William and Mary. Let's say it's an international relations class, and they have the professor, and they like the professor. They're like, this person's pretty good. And then they go to St. Andrews for their second year, and they take a class on, let's say, I'm just making this up, genocide or something like that. They'll write back to their international relations professor at William and Mary and touch base and say, you know what, I'm taking this class about genocide. This is really interesting. I never really thought about this before, and I kind of want to pursue this. And the professor might write back and say, that's it. Let's keep this conversation going. Let's talk about this. Flash forward a year and a half, and the student that started at William and Mary, who went to St. Andrews and took a class on genocide, comes back to William and Mary their fourth year and wants to do an honors thesis, maybe related to genocide, maybe not, but they have that connection with the professor because they took their class their first year, and crucially, they kept in touch with their professor as well. So in my experience, I don't think that students in the program are any more or any less likely to have good relationships with faculty at William and Mary. I think one of the things that we do really well at William and Mary is develop close relations with our students. The student faculty ratio is really good. And I think that if anything, because students in the program spend 2 years at St. Andrews, there's this sort of like impetus or incentive to stay in touch. And that's actually really beneficial. And frankly, not something that William and Mary students that were just spending 4 years at William and Mary typically do. So because of the program and because of the challenges, I think oftentimes it actually helps the relationship between students and faculty.
And then we have a question. Does the program help facilitate obtaining travel documents, the visas, passports, and everything like that? And going along with that, we had another question asking, do you need a visa for this program?
I'm happy to start that from our perspective. So when you move to St. Andrews, you will need a visa if you're an international student. And we call that a student visa for the UK, and the university supports you through that process. So we sponsor you as an international student to come into the UK and to study at St. Andrews. So we guide you through that process. What you will need to do though first is to make sure you have an up-to-date passport, and then we use that to help you get the visa and to support your move over to St. Andrews. We don't organise your travel for you simply because everyone wants to travel at different times and for different reasons and from different places. Our students are coming from all over the world. So we don't do that, but we certainly do help you with the visa process.
Yeah, and I think that just from the William & Mary side, I mentioned this class that you'll take with me in the fall. This class is actually a year-long class. And so what happens is in the fall semester, we spend it sort of talking about Scotland. And this year we was, everything was sort of, I did it about politics because that's what I study. And so I wanted to make it about sort of Scottish politics and responses to Brexit and then also COVID. So we spent basically a semester doing readings and having discussion about Scotland and Brexit and COVID. But in the second semester in the spring, we transitioned to more sort of like nuts and bolts discussion of how we actually go to St. Andrews. So the first years, we'll hear various people come in and say, okay, this is what you need to go to the UK. This is how the visa process works. This is how you get set up with St. Andrews email. This is how you choose, housing in St. Andrews. The important sort of idea here is that we have a support network that helps you with this process. So it's not like you're in this program and we say to you, okay, it's your job to get a visa, figure out how to get to St. Andrews, figure out how to get a bank account and all that kind of stuff. We have in the spring semester, actually, if you polled my students, they'd probably say I do too much of this, but sort of like giving them the practicalities about how to do these things. And the Reeves Center at William & Mary is the sort of international institute that you would sort of go to if you had any questions about visas. They provide support for travel in terms of logistics about when you should arrive in Scotland and so on and so forth. So there is a network here to help you. The other thing I should add too is if you're talking about visas coming to the United States for August, the Reeves Center is the entity that will help you with that as well. So for example, if you need a F1 or J1 visa to come to the United States to start at William & Mary, the Reeves Center will help coordinate all of that.
Great. And then we have a question about, is there an easy way to contact a WAMSTA alumni an alum, I should say. And on our side, I know we have a Meet a Major page through the undergraduate admission site where you can reach out to a current JDP student in any of the majors. But for alumni, I wasn't sure. Does anybody have information about that?
Oh, go ahead, Sam.
I was going to say there's a couple of ways. So there is the LinkedIn page where you could connect with alumni on the program, and they have some fantastic profiles on their LinkedIn page. And then we do also have alumni profile in various parts of the website, and we can connect you to them. So we do have an alumni Facebook group, as I think was mentioned earlier, and we're in touch with alumni, so we can connect you through current students to our alumni if you want to speak to them. They're very enthusiastic and very engaged. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is if you're all on Instagram, today in St. Andrews, the WAMSTA students took over the St. Andrews Instagram. And so there's some really nice stories and experiences on the University of St. Andrews account by WAMSTA students today.
Caroline, I did see a question if there was an opportunity for the JDP students to meet this summer or before new student orientation happens in August. We have done that over the years. If there is a desire for students and families for the orientation office, which is called Student Transitions and Engagement Programs, or the Parent and Family Programs team here at William & Mary, we can easily find a common date this summer. All of our early decision and regular decision receptions this year are virtually. And so it would be pretty easy for us to pull folks together so that just the joint degree program students could meet each other, especially our new ones. So that is definitely a possibility. Sorry, I've been having some technical difficulties with my audio. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we hear you. Great. Thank you so much for answering that question. And someone has asked, what are the networking and career development opportunities at each school?
So I can talk a little bit about the William & Mary side. So I mentioned in my incredibly quick presentation, the Cohen Career Center, which is a physical building on campus. It's right basically in the center of campus near the football stadium. That is a place that you can go to and do resume workshops or go attend information sessions from employers or things like that. It's also an online resource. And so they have databases of things like internships and job opportunities and things like that. That's available to anybody at William & Mary. That's not JDP specific. The specific part comes in our fellow that I was mentioning. Zara Quinn is our fellow this year. She's fantastic. She hosts workshops specifically for and limited to JDP students. And so actually on Friday morning, we have one where I think the topic is sort of like how to talk about the program and things like cover letters and how to explain, this program to people who might not be familiar. They hear dual degree, like what does this mean? So basically it's tailored to students in the program, and she has very specific and insightful knowledge about how to convey to the sort of awesomeness of the program to people who might not know about it. So there's a series of things like that. The other thing I'll note is that I also work with students pretty closely, particularly when they're juniors and seniors on career-related manners. So before I got my PhD, I was in consulting. And so as you saw from the slide before, there's a bunch of students who sort of end up in consulting. And I sort of have a couple different insights that I can share with them about that. But the other thing I'll do is I'll put them in touch with alumni or other contacts that I have who have careers that are aligned with what the student is interested in. So because this is a boutique program with this sort of special privileges, that's one of the things that the students in the program get, is a little bit more sort of personalized attention to their career goals. And as I mentioned before, I've been incredibly impressed with where students end up. So I think that the students are using the program to sell themselves as they should, and employers and graduate schools take note of it.
And likewise,
No, go ahead. Sorry, Sam.
I was just going to say, likewise, at St Andrews, we have someone who is dedicated in the Career Centre to supporting the programme and our students on the programme. And she organises sessions for our WAMSA students from first year onwards, and they're a part of our overall events programme for the cohort. So we've got some fantastic opportunities. We do connect with the Cohen Centre as well, so that's another point of the relationship. And the person in St Andrews who looks after that cohort is actually an American herself, so she knows very well the context that she's sending a lot of our students back into, which is really helpful, I think.
The only thing that I wanted to say is I have never seen a student that wasn't successful that had graduated from our program. I think that it's a small family of global scholars that have really done some great things out there. We have one student who's graduated who is an actor and has actually represented in LA, and he was one of our first students to graduate, as well as some very successful economic and business students who have graduated and moved on with their career. To me, the thing that I think is most important to note is that you've got two institutions that are dedicated to helping you, the individual student, to be successful. And I think it really takes a student who can navigate two different experiences at two different universities. Employers and graduate schools love to hear about how you've been successful at not just one institution, but how you've been able to blend your modality of learning at one and the other to create success for what that means for you. That there is no path of perfection. And I think that the thing that we try to help establish is incredible students, exceptional graduates. And I think a dual and joint degree is going to set you up for the rest of your life. And I think I'm a little biased because I've been a part of the program from just about its beginning. And I have seen the success over the years with just about every graduate. And so this is the neatest thing as an administrator that I've been able to do in my career, is to participate in this program. And I think that you're going to see that care, that influence in each of our institutions and how we represent the best of who we are at both the University of St Andrews and William & Mary.
Thank you. And then someone has asked, are students able to take summer classes? So we've shared a little bit about study abroad and internships, but are they able to take summer classes, maybe some that could potentially go towards the JDP?
Yeah, absolutely. And students often do, whether it's at the DC Center or just, regular William & Mary summer session. The only restriction is that they have to be William & Mary classes. So we don't allow, and this is an important thing to know, we don't allow transfer credit. So if you took a summer class at Stanford or something like that, you would not be able to transfer the credits in. So we do allow summer, but it has to be through William & Mary. And the same thing is actually true of study abroad. So if you're going to do a study abroad, and we've had students do study abroad like in Australia and things like that, which is absolutely fine over the summer, but it just has to be through a William & Mary program. So we don't allow sort of transfer credit from outside institutions to come into this program because it is, it's only 2 years at each place. So we want to make sure you're taking William & Mary classes and St. Andrews classes.
And then we have a question asking, do students typically travel back to the United States during that summer, during the ABBA program, or do they remain in Scotland during that summer between the two ABBA?
It's a real mix. We have such an international cohort. They're domiciled all over the world, so they might be going home, they might be staying in the UK, they might be going somewhere else, they might be visiting friends or doing internships. So it's a really difficult one to answer, actually, because our students are very independent and they go off and do their own thing over the summer. So yeah, there are a few that remain in St. Andrews, but I would say a lot of them are spreading all over the place.
And then another question is, how do final dissertations differ at both institutions?
Okay, well, maybe I can give the William & Mary perspective, and then we can compare to St. Andrews. So most of the majors have sort of two different options for, we kind of think about it in terms of like capstone experience. So you can do, either sort of an independent study or a research seminar at William & Mary in your fourth year, or you can do what we call an honors thesis. So an honors thesis is 2 semesters, so it's your entire senior year. You normally start planning it the spring semester of your junior year or over the summer before your senior year. And the idea is that you do an intensive sort of deep dive into a particular topic. You have a faculty member who leads it as your sort of head advisor of the dissertation. And then you have a committee of 2 other faculty members who are usually drawn from other departments, and they serve as your committee. And so what you will do is you'll write a relatively long dissertation. It can be sort of in the 40 to 60 page realm. Some people have gone a little crazy and done 100 pages. I don't recommend that, but it's been done. And then you'll defend it. So you'll have in late April or early May, you'll get up in front of your committee. Sometimes family members come, sometimes members of the community come. It's usually a joyous celebration, depending on how the dissertation goes. It's usually a very joyous celebration and sort of a very positive thing. And you present your research and you get grilled with questions and hopefully you pass. Most people pass. And it's a great experience. The part of that honors thesis process, depending on the department, may involve sort of working with the department in a small group of students who are also writing honors thesis. So it's not like you're just sort of on your own and you hand in something in April. You typically are working closely with your advisor and your committee, but then also with a sort of, we talk about a sort of thesis colloquium where you're working with other students who are going through the same exact thing. So you can commiserate, you can do all that kind of stuff, but you're helping each other and you're working together. So it's not like you're out alone doing it. So that's basically how the William & Mary side works.
And on the St. Andrews side, we tend to just have the dissertation model, so not the sort of honours project that Professor Holmes just talked about. And a dissertation at St. Andrews is, I suppose it's less performative in that we don't have the actual sort of live defence that you do. But it's very much the same in other respects. So it's a research focused exercise. A student will choose a topic in collaboration with a supervisor who they've come to know over the time that they've been studying with us, and they know that person works in that area or whatever. And they work with that person's supervision, under that person's supervision, and they produce an extended piece of research. And they hand it in and it's marked by 2 other people. So we don't have the sort of more performative aspect of the defense. It's simply a piece of written work that's marked and they get a grade for it. So yeah, the good thing about dissertations, I suppose, is it's really a chance for people to, as you said, Marcus, do a deep dive into something that they choose themselves, something that they choose as a topic, something that's really interested them, and they've thought, I'd really love to find out more about that, and I'd really love to carry out some of my own research. I'd love to be able to, write something under my own steam about that topic. So I guess that's what, the attractive thing of doing a dissertation is that you really get a chance to do your own thing. And you know, to develop a whole load of other skills, because that's a special skill in itself, sort of applying yourself to do research and, you know, writing an extended piece of work like that and crafting it into a dissertation.
Thank you both. We don't have any questions at the moment from the audience, but if anybody tuning in has more questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box. I know we have a couple more minutes. And I always like to pose questions to panelists as well when we have kind of a little quiet time, but what would you say to students that are debating between the joint degree program and just that typical university study? So like, for instance, to actual students, I always ask, why the JDP? Why did you choose it? But what advice would you all give to those students choosing?
I mean, I think the advice I would give is think about how much you want to be challenged, right? So think about, do you want to be exposed to two different intellectual traditions? Do you want to face the challenge of sort of getting used to one set of expectations and then having to learn a new set of expectations? And if the answer is no, doesn't mean you shouldn't do the program, but you should think about why you're not comfortable with that, right? So if you're not comfortable with the idea of challenging yourself with these two different intellectual traditions, then think about why. And maybe that's something that you will say, you know what, I'm not comfortable now, but I want to do this. I want to see what this is all about. I want to try to, you know, overcome this. And if you are excited about the idea of two intellectual traditions, this is a perfect program for you. So I recommend you do it. This is not to say that you know, going to William and Mary, for example, for 4 years is a bad experience. William and Mary's a great school. You're going to have a great time if you do William and Mary. I hate to call it regular because that sounds like I'm dissing, you know, William and Mary. I don't intend to do that. But if you do regular William and Mary, you're going to have a good time too. So really, if your options are between William and Mary and the JDP, you know, of course, I'm going to encourage you to do the JDP, but it's not like you're making a bad decision if you just go to William and Mary. So I want to make that clear. The other thing I should say too, I went to UVA undergrad, so I'm willing to have a conversation with you if you're thinking about, you know, the JDP versus UVA. I'm happy to talk to you about the pros and cons of both those. This program, this institution, and UVA as well. So shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to talk to you. And that goes for everybody. You know, I'm like I mentioned before, I'm very honest because I don't want students doing the program if it's not right for them, you know? And so if you have a concern and you think, you know, something's holding you back and you don't not sure if you want to do it or not, reach out to me. And if I can't answer your question, I can point you to someone who can, but we can have a meeting and we can talk about whether or not this is a good fit. And I read all your files, so I think you guys are a good fit, but if you have concerns, you know, let me know and we'll talk about it.
Now, Marcus, the real question is, are you going to have a conversation using your BlackBerry or your Apple device? It is something that we make fun of our faculty professor who has a BlackBerry that is so old it doesn't even update itself anymore. And he's quite an avid runner. So I would encourage students to ask him about the celebrity who we have here on campus who has the most number of tracked steps and miles running for this particular athletic app. And I can't say that for myself, but I'm pretty impressed that I know somebody who has achieved such greatness on campus, even had a story written about him here at William & Mary. I thought that was just some silliness that I could interject. I have to tell you that both Dr. Jones and Dr. Holmes have been incredible partners. I have known Samantha Lister for a long time, and she puts her care and compassion into the program. Our faculty put their honesty and their expertise into teaching and learning and advancing the academic portfolio for both of our programs. And so I think that you can't go wrong taking a chance. And again, I think that if Marcus read your files and you are a person that met and fits the profile for success in this program, I think that you shouldn't discount your own experiences. You know, we have a lot of students who have either traveled extensively or want both an experience in an American institution and other. You know, as an old person, the one thing I never did as an undergraduate was do any abroad experience. And my abroad experience for the last 10 years has been with the University of St. Anne's. And I have learned something new each and every time that I've had the opportunity to travel or to spend time with friends and colleagues and faculty. And I learned so much about it. And like I said, so to me, it's a long sort of education and journey, one that is regardless, as long as I'm at William, I will be a part of this program because I believe that much.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you all so much. It looks like we've answered all the questions our audience members have today. And I just want to thank all of those that tuned in tonight to spend their evening learning about the Joint Degree Program. And please feel free to reach out with further questions. And I hope you all also get to tune into our major panels where you get to hear from that student perspective with each major. I know we've had a couple earlier this week, but we have quite a few more throughout the rest of the week. But thank you all to our panelists so much for participating, and have a wonderful evening, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everybody.